Marcellino Panevino was a famous song that all these people sing to me. It was an old film. I guess it was in Europe and it was in Central America, and because they go Marcellino Panevino, which means bread and wine. But Marcellino actually means little miracle, which is sort of a cool name.
Very cool. And do I dare ask you what Jocko stands for?
Oh, I was a jock. I was nothing that spectacular. I was all-star. I was out of Massachusetts. I was a recruited football player. Went to Columbia, but within a year I ended up at Woodstock. So
I know. Okay, let's get going. Folks, we're speaking with Jocko Marcellino, or Marcellino. Whatever you want. There you go, folks. Whatever you want to pronounce his last name as, it means a miracle. Welcome to Night.
Call me late for dinner, right?
That's funny.
Call me anything, but that's the old joke. Okay.
Sha Na Na. You're one of the three original frontmen for Sha Na Na.
Yeah.
Along with Screamin' Scott Simon and Donnie York. Okay, let's get into it right away. You ended up putting the band together, and of all years, 1969, your eighth gig was, guess where, folks? Think of all the places you could play in 1969. What would be the biggest gig you could play? Woodstock. You ended up on the Woodstock bill, performing just before Jimi Hendrix. Can you virtually fly us into Woodstock and tell us some behind-the-scenes stories?
Well, let me tell you, it was a long weekend. But what happened before that, we had put this together, a college campus thing, and we'd done a few shows on campus at Columbia. It was basically a night off between the jocks and the pukes, they used to call it. It was really the war and the anti-war and the war faction, and it was real volatile times on the American campuses in America.
Absolutely. And Vietnam War was raging.
Yeah, so we were having fun with it, and then, work this place, that place, and then we decided, hey, this is a ball, but now, we got to actually make some money, and we stayed in the city and tried to make it, but it's very tough. At the time, we had 12 guys.
Wow.
And try to make that out on the New York club scene, forget it. So we finally had them having gigs. We were about to fold it up after, a couple of months, really. Probably after, let me say, 4 months, because we're in summer by then. And then we went down to the Steve Paul scene, and Steve Paul was the manager of the Winter Brothers.
Oh, Johnny and Edgar.
Johnny and Edgar, yeah.
Okay.
I slipped there. But, so we were playing his club, and we were causing a scene. It was in Hell's Kitchen, but all the rockers hung out there. So all of a sudden, we were a buzz, and Hendrix came, and Joplin came, and I met John Barnum, and Frank Zappa came, and it was just amazing who was showing up. And the very last night, when the club was leaned on, basically by some local crew for protection money, we performed, and on Jimi Hendrix's say-so, he got the promoters of Woodstock down there. And the promoters of Woodstock saw us and said, yeah, do you guys want to do Woodstock? They said that to my manager, who basically was a graduate student at the time. And I said, go tell them yes. And there was such a buzz about this Woodstock gig. Everybody but the Stones, Dylan, and the Beatles were on the bill. It was
That's true.
And I said, go tell them yes. And so inevitably, they offered us $350. That check bounced. And we got $1 to be in the movie. So divide that by 12 guys. What was that, 8 cents? And I'm not sure we ever got that $1. So, but obviously, we're an unknown group, and it was our 8th gig. So to make the cut to get in the movie, which was the biggest music documentary ever, or one of the biggest documentaries ever, it was an unbelievable piece of media and promotion, and then we took off. But and then again, Jimi Hendrix saved us, because I spent the whole weekend out there, exhausted.
No
I slept
kidding.
in the van one day. I washed in the pond like everybody else. I was on some mind-altering substance Saturday night, and I decided I wanted to be alone. There was only 500,000 people around me. But, and we kept going back. Are we on tonight? Are we on now? Are we on? And we kept pushing us back because we were nobody. And then the band's actually in Woodstock, because it wasn't really at Woodstock. It was near Woodstock, Sullivan County. Kept showing up, Paul Butterfield, etc. And they put them on. So finally, it's like Sunday night, and we're not on. And we're all like saying, you know, damn, we spent the whole weekend out here. We're not going to get to play. And they came to Hendrix Sunday night after the rainstorm, and the stage was sinking. They were about electrocuting people. They said, we got to put you on, Jimmy, and we're going to cut these other 4 or 5 acts. And Hendrix said, no, my deal is to close this. And it isn't fair to those acts that hung out. So we are very grateful to Jimi Hendrix, besides all his monster talent. But he was a good guy, and he was a fair guy. So we got on second to last before Jimi Hendrix. We did our half hour, 35 minutes, as the sun was coming up Monday morning, and it looked like a refugee camp. And then, you know, here we are finishing our set, and Hendrix is on and playing arguably one of the greatest sets of music. He was unbelievable that morning. And I tell you, if an eighth of the crowd was there, I'd be exaggerating. And he played, I mean, he was always great, but this was sort of the Band of Gypsies. And it was just so bluesy and so, you know, so felt. So, yeah, it was an amazing experience. And not only, you know, I think I'm the second youngest performer there. I was 19 years old, and just as a participant, as a young American, never mind as a performer, but it was just an unbelievable thing. And you got the sense of how important it would become. I remember somebody had the paper, and there was an aerial shot of the crowd on, like, the Sunday morning. And, you know, they were trying to different news agencies were slanting it different ways. You know, what a mess is one way, and the other way was, look how all these kids are cooperating. And really, that was it. You know, there was a balanced universe, because that thing could have been a disaster.
What's your most favorite memory from Woodstock? So
I was deciding that this is all overwhelming, and I was, you know, headed towards, as they say, a bad trip. And I walked up with my bass player, and this guy who I will call the Wandering Epps, because I never met him again. Met him that night, never again. And we walked way up to the top of the hill, and all of a sudden, Creedence Clearwater came on. And I literally could see the rings coming off the cymbals, and they were singing Born on the Bayou. And they got me into such a good groove, you know, and the rest was cake. And, of course, performing, to go out there in the morning, walk out, and these people are waking up waiting for Hendrix and are just sort of stunned that they see a pack of greasers on the stage, and we're calling them freaking hippies. Wake up, you freaking hippies.
When you were backstage at Woodstock, what was the buzz like amongst the performers?
Well, let me say this. When we first started, it was great. We're hanging backstage and seeing this rock star and that, and then all of a sudden they needed every space they could get for emergency. So they were bringing in people who were having a bad time. So it was not cool and mellow. They said, thanks a lot, come back this time and see when you're on. It was really not hanging backstage. You had to go hang with your buddies somewhere else. So literally, they said, you know, this isn't available, and good luck. So
did they helicopter you in?
They helicoptered most of us in. I drove our little van in with the bass player, Bruno Clark, and we, you know, supposedly the roads were closed, but there were some emergency entrances you could get there. We followed a couple of huge trucks of Sly and the Family Stone equipment, and here we are, our little van. But don't forget, you know, one of the guy's dads just gave us enough money to buy drums and a few amps. We had nothing, you know.
Had nothing. I hear you.
It was an amazing time in America, and an amazing time to be there. Because actually, the Woodstock Nation was, you know, christened there, if you would. And then it really did end at Altamont.
It sure did, just a few months later.
The 70s became a little darker with the counterculture, and then it turned from I would say, psychedelics and smoke into coke and speed and disco, which was...
Right after Woodstock, you opened up for the Grateful Dead and a bunch of other great acts, both at the Fillmore East and West. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, it was great. I mean, the Grateful Dead guys are always such nice guys, and of course they bought the myth, the legend was to show up there at their show with your buzz on. Of course, everybody loved them. That was it. They were all like flying. We really shocked everybody in New York. Because I remember they used to have this gelatin light show behind you.
Yeah.
And I went in there and I said, "Listen, guys, what we need is the lights on us, because we're all choreographed. We had a different tradition. We had
a showcase.
It was historic and it was choreographed. So we were one of the first acts that I think, and a good thing that happened in the 70s, that did theatrical rock. And then everybody realized you got to put on a show to maintain. And Elton John had this wild show with dancing bananas and fruits and everything. And we did a bill once. I don't know exact year in the 70s, but it was Alice Cooper and Sha Na Na.
Wow.
Now, at first you think this doesn't fit together. But I want to tell you, it really did in terms of the theatrics and the rock and roll. And we really got to know Alice, because he was right there checking us out, and we checking him out, and then we golfed with him over the years with the guys who were golfers. But it made sense. We were so fortunate not to depend on hit records, though we were involved with some gold and platinum records. And we had a double album of our own that went gold. But we're involved in other media and other kinds of media. First of all, like we've already talked about Woodstock, but the film of Woodstock.
Exactly.
And
90 seconds. Yeah.
And then we're ready to, fold that up. And then they come to us, they come to us about 6-7 years in of being an underground and college darling. And they ask us, Procter & Gamble asked us to do a show, a TV show. The Chicago had said no, the Beach Boys said no. They all were talking to each other. And we said yes. And it was because we were perfect for this. They wanted to do Monkeys-like, but a variety show. And it was on the TV show, it was some unbelievable experiences. We went from, the Chuck Berry and Bo Diddleys to James Brown to Ethel Merman.
Wow.
Ethel Merman did the great opening. She's in front of a big, lush, maroon stage curtain, and she says, "Curtains up," and then the curtain goes up, and there we are. We're all posed, being, thinking we're cool, and she turns around and looks at us and turns around back to the camera and says, "Curtains down."
Oh,
the curtain falls down in front of it. It was an hysterical cold opening, which they called us. But the TV show is, we met so many people. For me, it was James Brown, because I'm an R&B guy. And
right on, me too.
I was so big on James Brown. I'd seen him a couple of times as a kid. So he comes on our show, right?
Okay.
And we had cut a track called "It's Too Funky in the Air." It was his hit on Polydor. And he hadn't even heard it, and he's about to sing against it, which is unbelievable to start with. Here we are, these young white boys going to cut a track with JB, the Godfather. So I made sure the track was funky, and I had the band sing the background to make it a little more soulful. And so he listens quietly, and he looks up, and he goes, "Who's the drummer?" And I said, "Oh, man." And I raised my hand and said, "I am Mr. Brown." And he turns his hand over, and he says, "Give me 5.
Whoa.
James Brown, the Godfather of soul, wanted some dap, as we say. And that's an ultimate compliment to an R&B drummer.
No kidding. You got to lay the funk down just properly for the groove in R&B. There's no question.
And it's simple and empty and not busy like a lot of people.
That's
say.
right. That's right.
Here I am going to support myself, but I am I am a great drummer for a reason when there's Americana music, and I mean rock and roll and doo-wop and R&B, and because there's a joke. There's good. This is about the drummer. There's good news and bad news about your drummer. Okay, so what's the good news? The good news is he's got chops. What's the bad news? The bad news is he's got chops.
I understand that completely.
Because there are so many guys who want to fill up so much space, and that's so secondary to the song. I don't ever want a drum solo. Don't give me a drum solo.
You have to support the music.
I do wipe out once in a while, but don't give me a drum solo. Give me the groove, because my job is to be on time, to keep the time, right on time, and you know the drummer is the important part of the whole thing in terms of keeping that groove. One of my big influences was Art Blakey. My folks brought me to see him when I was young, and because he played bebop, but he had a shuffle going on with it. And you know, down here in San Diego where I live, I drop into several clubs and several blues jams because that's where I'll sing an Elvis for them. They'll want to hear Shake, Rattle, and Roll. But then I sing the blues, Bobby Blue Bland, whoever, Sonny Boy Williams. I love that old Americana.
I hear you.
And I get up there, and of course it's not structured like Sha Na Na. It's just sort of I just woodshed it,
Yeah.
And some hard-working cats, man. I just sit in. I don't get paid, and that's fine. So I sit in for a set. But there's not a lot of places in these cities that pay good players well enough, I mean, I was just out in Nashville. And I sat in with a band on Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
And you walk down Broadway in Nashville, in every club, and actually the drummer's sitting in the window with his back to you, right? And the band's facing into the club. There were so many good players. I don't know how anybody works in Nashville. There were so many good pickers, so many good drummers and bass players and performers and singers. It was unbelievable. And, and they only work for tips, It's
wow.
It's sometimes it's sad that the musicians aren't giving their just tribute, But
I heard a disturbing statistic actually on Charlie Rose, and apparently 10 years ago the music industry was worth $45 billion. That's a lot of money, folks. There's no question. Fast forward to today, 10 years later, it's only worth $15 billion. Now that's a 66% decline.
wow.
No industry can sustain that.
No.
It's collapsed.
We had a recession, but the biggest thing that happened was a delivery system,
Bingo.
People aren't going to Tower Records or Virgin because they're not there anymore.
Yep.
Then maybe they can go get a hard copy of a CD at Best Buy or something, Walmart, wherever those big places are. But otherwise, there may be a hard CD at Starbucks when you're checking out. They do a good collection.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, it's a download world. And with that, it's really it's really hard to be an artist to make it. And of course, people do. But it's a challenge like everything else. But
I just think if that percentage was transferred over to any other industry, I think the government would have stepped in by now and said, you know what, we can't allow our society to collapse like this and let people steal music or steal a car. It's the same thing. Stealing is stealing. It's a morals issue.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line. People have to feed their kids. So I just thought I'd mention that.
Kids ask me, hey, should I do this? And I said, listen, you're going to do it anyway because you love it. There's something about the thrill of playing, getting in the garage with your buddies and rocking away. Whether you're good or bad or lousy. There's something about just doing it, and you're going to love it, and you're going to do it. Now figure out how else you can put food on the table. You might want to, try to make it related to what you do or not in the music field, and just have that, and then do it. And What's insane for me is I'm 45 years into Sha Na Na, and before that, I started doing gigs when I was 12 years old. I had a trio.
Wow.
And we go out for $200, and I made the rule up, whoever books the gig gets 50. Everybody else gets, 50 apiece. And I booked all the gigs.
Ah, that was a smart move. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it is show business.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It's not just show. It's show business. So, and the fact that we've kept Sha Na Na going for 45 years, delivering a show that's worthy of the name, and we do, is a testament to somebody over here knows what they're doing.
Absolutely.
And basically, Screaming Scott and I run the business. And people say, hey, what's the best show you ever did? I go, last weekend. What's the best show I ever did? Matter of fact,
Good answer.
It was a great show. We did a concert in Vegas. It was part of this whole promotion. Olivia Newton-John is sitting down in residency at the Flamingo Hotel.
Oh, don't let me forget to ask you about Johnny Casino and the Gamblers.
Oh, I will.
Okay, thanks.
But we did, this is our Grease connection, and then Olivia's, she did her show downstairs and ran up to our show and did a couple of members with us while we did a dance contest.
Fabulous.
And this Grease thing has so many legs. And it's sort of what we're featuring now. Sha Na Na sings the hit, the Grease. Because we had 6 songs on the album, and as Johnny Casino and the Gamblers in the movie at the hop scene, and then our piano player co-wrote Sandy, which was huge. So Screaming Scott had a great songwriting, co-writing credit.
That's a fun movie.
Yeah, the show we're doing now has over a dozen songs from Grease. And it's been fun learning, we always did the songs that we did, We did Blue Moon and whatever else, Magic Changes, Hound Dog. We always did those, but we've added this year, we're doing You're the One I Want, and We Go Together, and I sing Grease Lightning, which is a ball. People love that. They love that play. Matter of fact, we're coming up on a gig July 13th.
Okay.
We're at the Hollywood Bowl, and it's called the Grease Sing-Along. And what they do is they have a huge screen, and with the lyrics on the screen, and the audience sings along. And this event, and we open up. We do a 45-minute show before the movie. And the audience, it's sell it out. It's the LA Philharmonic is a fundraiser. And they just pack the place with families. And it's sort of like what the Rocky Horror Show was for us.
Sure.
But it's, more family. And they come in all Pink Lady and Thunderbirds and their leather jackets.
Wow.
And it's my grandnieces, actually, my niece married Dave Grohl of the Foo Fighters. And they have 2 girls who are now in their 3rd year of going to this event. And they love it. They're 7, 8 years old. And it's great. I got their dad up to drum a song last year. He drummed
great.
on. We did Lucille and by Little Richard.
Sure. Lucille.
And he kicked the hell out of it, of course. No rehearsal. I just sort of patted it out. There's a stop here. Watch me, and he killed it. Of course, he
nailed it.
He's a major guy. You think that when you watch his show, and I go a lot of Foo Fighters show, he's the guitarist, lead singer. You go back there, and he has, you have 2 of the best drummers ever on the same stage, and one guy doesn't drum on that act,
Sure.
But sure. He's cool. He's an extremely level-headed guy for how large he is.
How did you come to meet our friend, your friend and mine, Mr. William Blackwell?
Bill Blackwell. Well, he's been off and on my music attorney for forever now. How did we meet? I was in Hollywood somewhere.
Did you lose a bet or something? No, I'm teasing. Bill, if you're listening, I'm teasing, by the way.
Yeah, it was a bad bet. I lost. No, he's been my music attorney for the longest time.
Yeah, he's a terrific guy. Lasting legacy of Woodstock, the whole generation, the 60s generation, us guys, the boomers. What's our legacy? Where did we go right? Where did we go wrong?
You know what? We spoke up. we spoke up. It was important. It was a cultural revolution, and it was important that we spoke up against a very unpopular war at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Because our buddies were going over there and not coming home.
That's right.
And there was a great time of experimentation. So, and there was a great time of more spirituality that went on. And, of course, it got hazed over by the drugs and the drug abuse. And that would be the bad, the pros and cons of it. That would be the bad side of it. I'd see cats, there was a point where I decided for myself, I got clean and sober. Because I saw a lot of cats who aren't with us anymore.
Well, you mentioned Jimmy before, too, and God love him. Rest in peace.
It's amazing how many people on that bill,
Mm-hmm.
We knew Keith Moon very well. He used to hang out on our tours with us.
Wow.
We knew a lot of people. Now, of course, we just watched Richie Havens, and that was more like his age. But Richie was a good pal of ours, and he opened up to us a bunch after Woodstock. It was a great package. Richie Havens and a couple of kunga players, and he would kill. But
a lot of talent, boy. A lot of talent.
It was an intense decade.
Sure was.
First of all, we lost
JFK.
Dr. King.
Yeah.
JFK, Bobby. Then we had in Chicago in '68, the Democratic Convention.
Mm-hmm.
And then Woodstock, Altamont. Woodstock was the culmination of it.
Yeah, I think
and
so.
Of course, we had the civil rights movement. These are the pros versus the cons of that decade.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I try to get that through to students and listeners today that don't realize what it took to get a black man in the Oval Office. That didn't happen by accident.
Oh, to let a black person sit anywhere they want at a diner.
Yeah, freedom riders. Yeah. Listen, I want to thank you so much for your time today, taking the time out to speak with us. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I love your music. All I can say is just keep going because you're bringing smiles and wonderful vibes to the world.
Yeah, I keep thinking, when am I going to graduate? But not yet. Not yet. I'm still rocking.
Keep rocking till the very,
as they say, when there were no asses in the seats, that's a telltale sign. But so far, so good.
Right on, my friend. Listen, have the great rest of the day, and I'll be in touch, my friend.